So now let's start with paper 2, which is we're going to do statistics, and the questions that we're going to do is question 1 and question 2. So let's start. It says an annual sport festival is held over a period of 11 days. A tech shop sells hot drinks at this festival. On each of the first 10 days, the owner of the tech shop records the temperature at 13:00, which is at 1 p.m., and the number of cups of hot drinks sold. This information is presented in a table and in a scatter plot below. So this is the table. We have the temperature, which is this, and the number of drinks sold. Then we have the scatter plot. We have temperature in the x-axis, and we have the number of drinks sold in the y-axis, right? And it gives us the graph. What do we see? We see the fact that we have an outlier here, see, because of it's not in frame with this one. It's just sitting there alone, being lonely and all that. So we have an outlier here. Then we have a scatter plot, just randomly points, but it shows us like a kind of like a shape, right? Then the first question asks us determine the trend of the data. What is the trend? We need to explain what happens to the data. What happens when the temperature increases or decreases, and what happens when what happens to the number of drinks, right? What do we see is that I'm gonna write it in green. See, it's like a decreasing line, right? So going from temperature, it's that, see, this one is the first temperature, the second one, the third one, the fourth one. What do we see? We see the fact that, so what do we see? We see the fact that there's like a line. That line is going down, right? What do we see? As temperature increases, do you see that, right? As we increase the temperature, what happens is that the number of drinks decreases. See, it goes down, right? So your answer here would be the trend is that as temperature increases, right, the number of hot drinks sold, what? It decreases. So that would be your answer. Basically, in your trend explaining the data, you need to state what happens to the x values, which is in our case is temperature, and what happens to the y value, which is in our case is the number of hot drinks sold. So that would be the first question answered. So now moving to the second one, which is 1.2, it says determine the equation of the least square regression line for this data. So what is the equation? The equation is going to be y cap is equals to a plus bx, right? And we need to find a and b. So to do that, we're going to use our calculator. So I'm going to use my calculator. So what you're going to do, you're going to go to set up, right? Then you're going to pick number 3 because of we're doing statistics. So you're going to press 3. Then after pressing 3, what do we need? We need this graph, right? So we need a and b. So you're going to pick number 2. So when you pick number 2, you're going to have your x and y values, right? So I moved it to the side so that we can see the calculator and the question. So we need to, the temperature is what is our x values, as I said. So this is going to be our x and this is going to be our y. So at the x column, you're going to plot in the x value. So let's do that. So you're going to say 14 because that's the first one. Then you're going to say equals to. Then you're going to say 24 equals to. So keep on doing that till you put all the numbers, all the data. And you're going to say 12, which is the last two. Then you're going to say equals to. Then the last one is 19. Then you're going to say equals to. To check whether you have the same values on the data and the one that you just punched in, you're just going to count, which is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have 10. So in here, the last number should have 10. Then you're going to press this button just to go to the next column. Then you're just going to go up till the first one. Then you're going to punch in for the y. So you're going to say 410. Then you're going to say equals to. Then you're going to keep on punching the number and saying equals to. So let's do that. So when you're done having all the data, you're going to press what? AC. Then after pressing AC, you're going to say shift. Then you're going to go to 1, which has the statistic thing. Then you're going to pick what? You're going to pick 5, option 5. Then what do you want? You want A and B value, right? So you're gonna pick 1 for A, which is your answer is gonna be equals to that, right? Then you're gonna say AC again, you're gonna say shift, then you're gonna say 1, then you're gonna say 5 again, then you're gonna pick what? You're gonna pick 2, right? Then you're gonna say equals, and that's gonna be what? Your B. Then you found your A and B. So let's write the values for A and B. So A was what? A was equals to 489.47, because I rounded off to 2 decimal places, and therefore B was equals to -10.37, right? Then you're going to substitute into the formula because they say they want the equation. So Y bar is equals to the A minus 10.37x. Then you're done answering the second question. So now question 1.3, it says the owner observes that he uses 1 liter of milk for every 8 cups. So the first part is that we know that he uses 1 liter of milk for every 8 cups. So 1 liter is equals to 8 cups, right, of hot drink. So then it says if the temperature at 13:00 on the 11th day was expected to be 17, so we know the fact that the temperature was expected to be 17, right, which is temperature is X, right? Then they say predict the number of 1 liter boxes of milk that can be sold on the 11 days. So we need to know how many liters of milk. So to know how many liters of milk, we need to know how many cups were sold. So let's calculate the number of cups that are sold. So we have our equation that we solved from question 1.2. And we know that temperature is equals to X. So our X value here is 17 degrees Celsius. So we're going to substitute 17 to find the number of cups. And the number of cups is what is on the Y-axis. So we're solving for that. So we're going to substitute. So when we're done substituting, right, for the 17, the temperature, when we punch this into the calculator, we're going to get Y, which is the number of cups, to be 3,313,18, right? But then since it's cups, there isn't any half cup, so we're gonna round this off to what? To the nearest whole number, meaning rounding upwards, right? So this is going to be the same as 314 cups was sold on the day on this temperature, right? So now what do we want? We want the number of milk that was used, right? 1 liter, but we know that 1 liter is equals to 8 cups, so we're gonna take the 314 cups and divide it by 8, right, to find how many 1 liters. So that is going to give us 39.14. So we're going to round it off. We're going to round it up. Always round up because we're dealing with cups and milk, and we don't have a half a milk or half a liter of milk, right? That comes in the box. So we're going to round it up. So when we round it up, it's going to give us what? It's going to give us 40 liters. So we need 40 liters of boxes to sell on that day. So this is the amount of milk that we need, 40 liters. So then we're done with that question. Then the last question for question 1 says identify the outlier. Already when we started, we did identify the outlier. What did we see? The fact that the outlier is the one that's standing here and it's on. So going down, we need to check what is here. This is 10, right? We need to check how many till we get to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is the same as 11, 12. So this is 12, right? And here, you don't even need to check how much here is. We go to the data, we check where 12 is, and 12 is here, right? 12 is matched with 330. So our outlier, the coordinate, so for 1.4, our coordinate is 12 is to 230, and that's the point of the outlier. So we have identified the outlier. So now let's do question 2. It says learners for various schools wrote an aptitude test in order to qualify for a bursary. The marks as a percentage are presented in the ogive or cumulative frequency graph below. So they give us an ogive. Then the first question says how many learners wrote the test. So to know how many learners wrote the test, you need to go to the last, see here, the last point here, and match it with the one from the cumulative. So the cumulative here is students. Here it's students, and here are the marks, right? So here are students and here are the marks. So we need to check. So I need to zoom it in first. So when we zoom it in, right, the last point here here up, it's gonna be here, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a line and basically draw that from that point. I'm gonna draw it straight here to the y-axis to know how many students, because here's students. So let's do that. So we see the fact that when we're done drawing the line, we need to go here and check where is it situated, right? So I'm going to zoom it in again so that you guys can see it. So going from that, now we're going to check basically from here, where does it lie, right? So this, we need to know how many lines in between, right, before like 180 to 200. So I will check with this one. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So meaning it's an interval of 2. So this is like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, so that we can get from 80 to 90, right? So knowing that, so this is going to be 2, 4. But we see the fact that this pink line, even if it's not that visible, I think when you do it, you'll see is between the fourth one and the sixth one. So it's going to be the fourth one and the sixth one, meaning the number of students, it's 175. So let me write down the answer. So for question 2.1.1, so 2.1.1, how many students? It's going to be 175 students, right? So now moving to the second question. So question 2.1.2, it says write down the model of the class. So the formula for the model is basic n, which is the total number, divided by 2. Then since that is where it's here by the frequency, which is the student, then we're gonna drop it down to check what is basically the modem, right? So we know that n, it's 175, and divided by 2, it's going to be equals to what? It's going to be equals to 87.5, right? So since we can have 87.5 students, we're going to approximate it to 88 students, right? Then we're going to take that 88 students, we're going to look for it here, then we're going to drop it down to see where is the model. So again, we need to zoom it in. So let's do that. So we need to look for 88. So let's go here. We know that 80 is here. This is 2. So this is 2, 4, 6, 8. So this is 2, 4, 6, 8. So 88 is going to be here. Let me do it in pink. So 88 is going to be this line, right? So I'm going to take a line. Then I'm going to draw it from here going there, right? Like that. So I'm going to make it pink so that we can see it properly. Then from there, see there's a point here. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to take another line and I'm going to draw it from here where it cuts the graph, and I'm going to draw it down like this. See, down like that, and I'm going to make it pink so we can see it. So what do we see? The fact that our mode lies between 40 and 50. So that's going to be your answer. So let's answer that. So let me unzoom it first. So our answer is going to be what? We said between 40 and 50. So it's going to be 40. Then you're going to say x, then 50. So you're going to say 40 less than x. Then you're going to say it's going to be less than and equals to 50. Or you can write it like this, where the side has the equal sign. So you can say 40. So either one of it is correct. So you pick whether the one you want to make this one greater than and equals to, or you want to make the other one. But either one of the two answers is going to be correct. So the last question, let's do the last question. It says the minimum mark to qualify for the bursary is 75%. How many students, how many learners qualify for this bursary? So we're going to go back to the graph. We know the fact that the minimum is 75. Then we're going to go up the graph and basically check how many students actually qualified. So let's do that. Go to the graph again. So we know that the minimum is 75. So you know pink, right? So between 70 and 80, this is going to be 75%, right? Then we're going to draw a line going up now because of they gave us the mark. We need the number of students, and the student is the y-axis. So we're going to draw a line, a pink one, you know. Then we're going to go up like that, right? It's not visible. So we're going to go up like that, and I'm going to make it pink, right? Then I'm going to draw another line just to go that way, because of that's where the student, we're going to know how many students are there. So let me do that. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to go from where it cuts here, right? So it's going to cut here. Then I'm going to go like that, you see. Then we find, let me make it in pink so it is visible. Then we see the fact that it's actually what? It's actually 158 students that qualified. So you're gonna write 158 students, but we're not done. So let me unzoom this so that we can solve it properly. So for 2.1.3, right, we know the fact that basically from the graph what we took is that we took the fact that it's going to be 158, right, students. But we need to know how many of them qualified. So we need to take the total number to find the amount of students. So you're going to take the total number of students, which is 155 minus 158 is going to be equals to 17 students actually qualified for the bursary. So then we're done with question 2.1.3. So now let's do the last question for statistics. So which is 2.2. It says the table below shows the marks that 15 students from one particular school obtained in an aptitude test, and they give us the marks, right? So the first question says calculate the mean marks obtained by the student learners. So to do question 2.2.1 and 2.2.2, I'm gonna just use the calculator. So you're gonna take the calculator, you're gonna do set up, then you're gonna pick statistics again, but now you're not gonna pick 2, but you're gonna pick 1, which is one variable, because we're just dealing with x, we're not dealing with two things. Then you're gonna punch in the marks, so you know the drill is the marks equals 2. So you're gonna do that. Then once you're done recording all the numbers, they told us it's 15 students, and you see the fact that your data ends at 15, so you did the right thing. Always double check. So I've already done that. Then you're gonna say AC, then you're gonna say shift, you're gonna say 1, which is for the stats. Then when you're done with that, you're gonna pick option 4, right? Then when you pick options 4, you see the fact that you have 2 for the mean, so you're gonna pick 2, right, for the mean, which is your mean is gonna be 74.86. all right, then you're gonna round it off to 2 decimal places. So let's do that. So it's gonna be 74, then you're gonna say AC again, because we need the standard deviation for the second question. So you're gonna say shift, then you're gonna say 1, then still 4, then you're gonna pick option 3. So you're gonna pick option 3, not option 2, but option 3. So that's what you're gonna do. Then you're gonna say equals to, which is you're gonna get 16.12, right? Then you're gonna write your answers. So for 2.2.1, your mean, which is x bar, is equals to 74.87. Then standard deviation is going to be equals to, for 2.2.2, the standard deviation is going to be equals to 16.12, right? Then they say question 2.2.3, it says the number of students, the number of learners whose marks lie more than 1 standard deviation. What they're talking about is that we have something called the number of students lying the first standard deviation, second standard deviation, and third standard deviation, right? So the formula is like this, or the coordinates for it is like this. It's going to be x, right? It's going to be x bar, not standard deviation. It's going to be x bar, right? That is going to be the first part of the bracket. It's going to be minus the standard deviation, but in front of it to represent the first one, the second one, and the third one, depending on the question. Then the other side is going to be x bar plus n standard deviation. In our case, they told us what? They told us to the first standard deviation, but they said above the mean. So this is below, this part represents below, and this one represents above. So you need to pick one, because they specifically said above the mean. And another important thing, they said 1 standard deviation. So here n is going to be 1. So you already have your x bar and your standard deviation. So now for question 2.2.3, you're gonna use this one, which is x bar plus n, right? Standard deviation. We know that x bar is what? Is 74.87 plus n is going to be 1 because if they said 1 standard deviation. So it's going to be 1 multiplied by what? By our standard deviation, which is 16.12. Then you're going to solve that. So this whole thing is going to be equals to, so this is going to be 90. So this is the mark that is 1 standard deviation above the mean. So it's going to be 90.99. Then you're done answering this question. So now doing the final question, it says the final grade 11 marks as percentages obtained by a group of learners was analyzed, and the 1 standard deviation interval about the mean was calculated as being this. Then they say calculate the standard deviation for the final grade 11 learners. So what did they tell us? They tell us the fact that, okay, the marks, then they tell us about the interval. So we know that the interval for 1 standard deviation, so it's going to be x bar, right, minus standard deviation, because they said 1, so it's 1 multiply the standard deviation, and they tell us the fact that it's what? It's x bar plus what? Another standard deviation plus standard deviation. But they all, what they did is they told us what is this interval. They told us that the interval is 82.7 and it's 94.1, right? So what do we need to do is we need to equate this and this together to find the standard deviation. So what do we know? We have 2 unknowns, so we can use simultaneous equation. But here we're only gonna solve for what? We're gonna only solve for the standard deviation because that's what the question wanted. So it's gonna be x bar minus standard deviation is going to be equals to 82.7, right? And this you're going to make it your first equation. Then equation 2, which is x bar plus standard deviation, is going to be equals to 94.1, which is going to be a second equation. So now we need to make what? We need to make x bar the subject of the formula. So when we make x bar the subject of the formula, it's going to be x bar from the second equation, or you can pick the first equation, it really doesn't matter. So I'm going to take the second equation. When I make x bar the subject of the formula, I'm going to take the standard deviation to the other side, so it's going to be equals to 94.1 minus standard deviation, right? And this is going to be equation 3. Since I changed equation 2, I'm going to substitute my equation 3 into equation 1. So I'm going to substitute 3 into 1, right? So let's do that. Wherever I see x bar, I'm going to substitute this. So it's going to be 94.1 minus the standard deviation minus the standard deviation is equals to 82.7. Then simplify this, meaning grouping like terms, negative standard deviation and negative standard deviation. It's going to be 2 negative 2 standard deviation. So it's going to be 94.1 minus 2 standard deviation is equals to 82.7. Take that 94.1 to the other side. So you're going to have negative 11.4. Then divide both sides by 2 by negative 2. So the standard deviation is going to be equals to negative 11.4, right? Divided by negative 2, which is standard deviation, which is what they wanted, going to be equals to 5.7. And therefore your answer is standard deviation is equals to 5.7.